Hi, this is my 8x10 Deardorff camera. It's made of mahogany, and as with every other camera, you can have different lenses that are either wide angle or zoom, but also to move in on a subject, you can actually zoom in on it this way as well. So this is the bellows. The bellows is of leather construction with fabric on the inside. The back of the camera is the viewing glass, and the size of the negative is 10x8. So that's within this frame here. And this is portrait. And then if you take off the back, you can actually make it into landscape. Now, Gordon, can you tell me about the focal length and why?
Yeah, well, the nature of these cameras is that they're a lot bigger than the little 35mm cameras we carry around. The lens to look the same as if it was on a small camera has to be much, much longer. So this is like an ordinary, those little 50mm lenses you get on your camera, so on your small camera. So this is just the equivalent of a small camera, but the lens is a lot longer. The other nice thing is that, as Angie was just saying a moment ago, the ability to extend the lens a long way out means that we can focus on things very close up, and that gives us the opportunity to do the things we've been doing in this exercise, which is valves and all sorts of little tiny bits and pieces. The design of this camera was 1926 by a little guy in Illinois called Laban F. Deardorff. But it's just beautifully versatile and able to be manipulated in all sorts of ways to get all sorts of things in focus.
And a lot of the modern day cameras now have got tilt and shift capability, and it's all based on this sort of camera. So you're able to focus, like Gordon was saying, on different planes. So you can actually distort the image, or you can, these cameras we also used for architectural photography, so you don't get converging of lines when you're photographing buildings. So this camera has tilt and shift movements. It has rise and fall, so when you're photographing
tall buildings,
you can get it all in proportion from the bottom all the way up to the top.
You can simply look up without tilting the back, and if you tilt the back on a camera like this, as you would probably know, you get the buildings all going like this. So this camera allows us to put the lens up in the air instead of just having to point it up.
So basically what I'm going to do is just move in, get my focusing cloth, and it's going to be a landscape shot, so I'm moving it from portrait to landscape. Next thing I'm going to do is make sure everything's zeroed in, so it's right at the very beginning. Make sure the front and back standards are parallel.
The other thing that Angie's done is make sure that the lens is underneath the level of that shelf so we can see the top of the object. She's already set the tripod up to do that. Now she's focusing the camera. The black hood is necessary to exclude all the light from coming in from outside so she can see where the object is and whether it's in focus or not. The back of the camera is vertical and the front of the camera, the plane of the lens, is vertical. So if they're in that condition, the object is tapering backwards. We would only be able to get either the front of the object or the rear of the object or the middle of it in focus and sharp. So by tilting the lens forward, as Angie's doing now, she will be able to enable the camera to focus on the front and the back and the middle all at the same time. This is the huge benefit of these cameras, that you can actually maintain a sharpness right through from the front to the back of an object.
So what I've done is I've made sure that one of the tools at the front of the display is in focus, and then one of the tools at the back of the display is in focus. So that means it's focusing in on that plane. And so when I shut down from 5.6, which is what I view the object in, so there's as much light as possible.
Even though you've done this, there will still be minor inaccuracies in focus. And in order to fix those minor inaccuracies in focus, we close the aperture of the lens down so that it forgives us a little bit, and everything looks very, very sharp. Here, everything is external to the camera. So all we have here is a piece of film and a lens. So that if we need to know what exposure to make to take this at, we have to factor that in after we've got it all set up and focused. Now, so no light is being measured from inside, it's all being measured from outside with a meter. So what Angie will do is measure this with a light meter to find out how much light is out there, and then we'll set the lens accordingly. But that involves making calculations for the amount of extension the lens has beyond its focus on infinity position, so that if we are going out another, say, 40%, then we would have to, that's 1.4, we would have to double the amount of light that we allowed. So typically our exposures in this environment will be 2 minutes or more.
When you're photographing with black and white film, it's important to expose for the shadows, and when we're developing the film, we take the highlights into consideration. So it's 400 film, and I'll probably spot meter in at the base of one of those tools. You can either spot meter, or you can take an incident reading, which gives you an overall meter reading of the light. So this is the double dark slide. There's 2 shots on here. So the slide comes up, this flap comes down, you slide some film in total darkness. It's sensitive to all spectrums of colour. And so there's 2 shots. So what I'm going to do is, I viewed through the back of the camera. I'm now going to, so we just slide that into the back there like that. We close down the lens. Yep, shutter's cocked.
Yep.
Right.
And you use a physical trigger.
That's exactly right. So this is the cable release, and we use that to minimise any camera shake when the shutter goes off.
Yep.
So
Slide out. Yep.
so the slide comes out. I've set 7 minutes and 8 seconds on the timer. So 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Cable release to close the shutter. And then the slide. So this tells, when I've got the film in the dark slide, this tells me that the film's not exposed. So when I put this back in, there's a dark strip across here which tells me the film's been to indicate to me later on when I come to develop the film that it's been exposed. The slide comes out, and that's one photograph.